Welcome to another reading from the Science of Mind Daily Guides. I was actually thinking about reading something called Murphy's Dogma. It comes every other month, and I forgot to read it in September. So I just read it now. It's pretty good, but I think I'll save it for tomorrow. Well, in fact, I will save it for tomorrow. Today's reading is called Practical and Mystical. And in a way, that kind of describes my day today, or our day, my wife's and mine, because this morning was a hive of activity. We did an awful lot out in the yard, moved a lot of stuff, watered stuff because my sprinkler system is not working right now, excuse me. And of course, cleared all the eternal leaves that keep coming down. So it was a really busy morning. And then this afternoon has been, well, that went on actually slightly into the afternoon, and for the rest of the afternoon, it's been more relaxed. It's been a time for more contemplation, actually. So there you are. So our day really was kind of practical and mystical. So let's see what Reverend Jesse has got for us today. First quote is from Adela Rogers St. John's. Adela Rogers St. John's. And because of the theme for this month, I assume she is someone who was involved with religious science in the 20th century and probably knew Ernest Holmes quite well. That's what I'm guessing. I've got to ask Reverend Jesse to give me the background of some of these people that he's quoting all week, because I'll see him tomorrow. She says, we must have a union and a working principle between spiritual science and the world of every day in which we live and move and have our being. And I think that's pretty balanced. In other words, let's live a balanced existence. Let's not just completely forget there's a spiritual side to us and just concentrate on stuff here, compared with the other one, which is rushing off and becoming a hermit, So, even the people in monasteries, the monasteries where they don't come out, where they're cloistered, even there they do a lot of practical stuff. They work in gardens, they make stuff for the outside world, whether it's baskets or wine or whatever it is, So even there they have this balance between the practical and the mystical. Ernest Holmes in Can We Talk to God? It's actually a pretty good book, Can We Talk to God? Produced in 1934, and this is on page 52. It really is a book I can recommend. It was required reading for some courses I took, but it is a good book. Can we talk to God? Of course, the answer is yes, but it's much broader than that. In this book, and I've forgotten this part of it actually, he says, here is the difference between the dreamer and the practical person. The dreamer is always floating around in the clouds. The practical people keep their thoughts in the clouds and their feet on earth. In this way, they bring heaven to earth through themselves, and this is necessary. Let us keep the dream side open, as it's the beautiful side of our natures. It is meditative. It's the contemplative side. It's the subtle side that is forever merged with the universe and is at one with all good. Since this inner self is in continuous connection with the outer self, it can cause a flow of intelligence and thus stimulate in the mind and the brain to purposefulness, to creative genius, to executive ability. There's something in the most practical that longs for this still, silent presence. When we spend our entire time in objective things, never getting back to the higher self, we're piling brick upon brick sooner or later to see them fall about us in ruin. The toilers die in a day unless the dreamer refreshes and invigorates them with that divine influx that comes from the inner self, which never tires, fed by the deep, eternal fires of spirit, of course. And this is what Reverend Jesse says. which is kind of what I said at the beginning, but here it is. He says, really, it takes all kinds. It takes dreamers and it takes producers. It's often assumed that dreamers are drawn to metaphysics as a sort of spiritual opium den of pointless fantasy. In fact, these are crisp and highly charged principles that we use. Optimism gets things done. In sustainable living, though, a balance must be struck between relentless productivity and peace of mind and heart, the invigorating communion with our source in meditation. So I think the message is pretty clear. It really doesn't need a lot of unloading by me, right? Or explanation. It's just, let's live a balanced life. Let's not have everything just like work, or, busy, busy, busy. And let's not go off in the other direction and spend all our time just contemplating and meditating. Let's strike that balance. And as I said, even the people in monasteries and convents, they actually strike this balance. They do physical work. They do practical work, as well as doing their contemplation, their meditation, their communion together, singing psalms, etc., etc. So life really needs to be a balance. That's what they say. That's what I say. I agree with them. So what do you think? I think it should be. Oh, it does remind me of one thing. The late, great Wayne Dyer said when he was young and in school, I don't know what grade he was in, but it was a fairly early grade. And he was actually fascinated, but mesmerized, I think, by the clock. And the clock the second finger was ticking away, and he was just following it. He was off in a contemplative frame of mind, I guess. And then a voice came in and said, "Mr. Dyer, would you mind rejoining us?" And he said, "Well, not really." Well, he didn't tell us the outcome, but I can tell you, I was in Catholic school. If I'd have done that in Catholic school, I would have come down to earth very quickly. There would have been very real corporal punishment administered. So anyway, whatever I ought to know, I shall know. And whatever I ought to do, I shall do. This is the affirmation from Reverend Jesse. Whatever I ought to know, I shall know. Whatever I ought to do, I shall do. I think that's a pretty good affirmation, don't you? That is one that's definitely worth putting in the book and remembering. So cool. Look out tomorrow for my colleague, Reverend Lisa Ryan, about 9:15. And look out for Creative Life Spiritual Center service at 11 a.m. tomorrow, both Central Time. And they will be on Creative Life Spiritual Center's Facebook page. And later, the service will be on Creative Life Spiritual Center's YouTube page. So I will be back tomorrow, hopefully around about 5 o'clock. Today was one of those days where, I don't know, both the software and the hardware decided to play out today, but here we are. We finally made it. So until next time, I'm knowing for each and every one here a wonderful rest of the day, whatever that turns out to be. Namaste.